So, RoboCop Rogue City really surprised a lot of us back in 2023. It totally nailed the movie vibe and gave us a super satisfying first-person shooter experience that fans just loved. Now, Teon Studio is back with RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business. This isn't a full sequel, though it's more of a standalone adventure or a separate DLC pack. That means you don't even need the original game to play it, which is pretty cool for new players. This DLC dropped on July 17, 2025 for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. The story picks up right after the events of RoboCop Rogue City and actually fits in between the RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3 movies, adding some neat backstory to the whole universe. The main goal here was to give us more RoboCop and a more action-focused experience, trying to fix some of the gripes people had about the original game's pace and exploration bits. The unfinished business story kicks off after RoboCop cleans up the Detroit gangs in Rogue City. A new chapter starts with a group of mercenaries who actually helped the new man in town before, taking over the Omni Tower. The Omni Tower was supposed to be a cheap housing project by OCP, but after the mercs took over and even stole parts from RoboCop's chair, it's become a deadly trap and fortress. RoboCop's mission is to break in, fight his way to the top floor, and bring back order. The story also digs into Officer Alex Murphy's past, with flashback scenes where you actually play as him and meet a key figure from his history. Peter Weller is back, voicing RoboCop, and his dry signature wit really adds to the character's depth, especially in those flashback scenes. People are loving this story because it adds so much to the RoboCop lore and really respects the world created by the movies. Even though some folks were worried the Omni Tower might feel repetitive since it's just one main location, it's actually surprisingly diverse. It's got apartment blocks, a movie theater, labs, and even a trash management area. The game retains the slow and crushing first-person shooting from Rogue City, making you feel like an unstoppable walking machine or a god of death. Your iconic Auto 9 pistol remains central to the action, offering unlimited ammo, easy upgrades, and a deeply satisfying experience. Ricochet bullets, a major feature from the original game, are back with a vengeance and available right from the start. The Unfinished Business DLC introduces several exciting additions. One of the highlights is the Cryo Cannon, a powerful new weapon that fires liquid nitrogen, freezing enemies solid so you can shatter them. Visually, it stands out with its superb sharp ice crystal effects. Another new feature is environmental takedowns, allowing RoboCop to use elements of the environment, like vending machines or concrete walls, as blunt instruments to destroy enemies. There are also new enemy types introduced in the Omni Tower, including sword-wielding androids, jetpack users, snipers, aerial drones, and tougher enemies equipped with better armor. One of the most significant changes is the inclusion of unique playable sections where you take on missions as Alex Murphy before he became RoboCop. These moments offer a more fragile, human combat style, adding variety and depth.
This is a big place to cover.
We better get to work.
Start with the pickup over there. It matches the dispatch.
The hood is still warm. They've only just arrived.
We're in the right place then. Let's find out how to get inside.
Additionally, there's an exciting cameo where you get to control a prototype ED-209 in specific scenes, letting you utterly destroy enemies using its iconic arsenal. This DLC is shorter, about half the length of Rogue City, clocking in at approximately 8 to 10 hours. However, it's more focused, emphasizing continuous progression through the Omni Tower rather than open-world exploration or frequent returns to the police station. This tighter pace is widely seen as an improvement, eliminating much of the original game's boring dead times. The game continues to show off a meticulous and faithful recreation of the old Detroit from the movies, perfectly capturing that retro style and 80s spirit. The environments generally look great and are described as excellent. However, the graphics don't show significant improvements over Rogue City, pretty much sticking to the same visual standard. While the overall visuals can look superb on some platforms, character models for NPCs are often described as generic, uncanny valley, or less polished, with weak facial animations. Peter Weller's return as RoboCop's voice actor is consistently praised as flawless, dry, and lovable, effectively capturing the character's essence. On the flip side, voice acting for supporting and minor characters often gets criticized for being unpleasant, artificial, or sounding like hastily made temp recordings. The sound generally has no major issues and includes an excellent mix of old movie soundtrack and new beats that enhance the drama. Unfinished Business has been called disappointing in its lack of polish and full of problems and glitches. Common complaints include crashes, especially when using the cryo cannon, soft locks that force you to go back to earlier saves, and fatal error crashes. Inconsistent frame rates and noticeable lag or stuttering are frequently reported, especially during intense fights or the new takedown animations. Visual bugs from Rogue City are still here, like textures popping in, animation glitches, lip sync issues, and characters completely disappearing during finishers and cutscenes. These technical flaws make the world feel less immersive and can be annoying. The strengths of the game lie in how well it captures the essence of being RoboCop, an unbeatable mix of man and machine. It absolutely nails that powerful feeling through slow, crushing combat, brutal and hilariously violent takedowns, and the ability to smash enemies into walls, all of which are central to its appeal. The Unfinished Business DLC has been praised as a perfect love letter to the legendary 80s action franchise, thanks to its meticulous recreation of the film's aesthetics and unmistakable 80s spirit. One of the standout strengths is the return of Peter Weller as RoboCop's voice, which adds a strong layer of authenticity. The core gameplay, especially the use of the Auto 9 and the enhanced ricochet bullet mechanics, is both satisfying and super engaging. Another major strength comes from the playable sections as Alex Murphy and AD-209, which introduce unique and exciting gameplay shifts that add variety and depth. The transition to a tighter pace and a more action-focused story set within the Omni Tower is also considered a positive evolution, cutting out Rogue City's slower moments and eliminating the boring dead times. With a lower price point, $29.99 or £24.99, and a focused 8 to 10 hour campaign, the game offers a worthwhile experience that's an easy recommendation for both fans of the original and newcomers to the series. The weaknesses of the game highlight several areas for improvement, despite its satisfying core gameplay. Many critics have pointed to a shallow overall experience across the 10-hour campaign, citing the limited number of new weapons and enemy types, and a general lack of variety in how combat evolves. The overwhelming dominance of the Auto 9 renders many of the other weapons found throughout the game nearly useless. Perhaps the most significant drawback is the disappointing lack of polish in the game's technical performance, with frequent crashes, soft locks, and noticeable frame rate drops and lag, especially on console versions. Persistent issues such as lip sync mismatches, texture pop-in, animation glitches, and inconsistent sound mixing have carried over from Rogue City. While the main storyline is packed with lore and fan service, some players feel it's not very engaging or even shallow, particularly when it comes to minor characters whose voice acting and facial animations fall short. Side missions have also been criticized as very basic, often feeling unrewarding or unnecessary. Finally, by sticking too closely to the original formula without major innovation, the game doesn't bring many new changes to the core action, and for some, ends up feeling like nothing more than a rerun. For fans of RoboCop, Rogue City, this is an easy recommendation considering its price. If you love the core loop of the first game, its brutal combat, and the faithful portrayal of the IP, and you just want more RoboCop, this will likely be a worthwhile, albeit familiar and technically flawed 8 to 10 hour ride. For newcomers to the game, as a standalone title, this is an excellent starting point, especially if you prefer an action-focused first-person shooter without the slower moments of the original game. However, be prepared for a B-tier experience with noticeable technical flaws and a less varied gameplay loop compared to many modern AAA titles. Overall, critics' scores for Unfinished Business are average or mixed. Metacritic gives it a 69 and OpenCritic a 72, while Steam user reviews have been very positive. The game is described as a solid B-movie video game and good enough for fans, showing that folks are willing to overlook some flaws because it's so true to the source material.